Everybody stand up. And take your hands out above your head. And shake them out above here. Shake them out up here. Shake them out down here. Shake them out in front of you. Shake them out in back of you. One up and one down. The other one up, the other one down. Take them around and do some cross laterals. There you go. Okay. All right. Roll your shoulders and relax. Okay. All right. Everybody's smart. Everybody's smart. We're all good at different things like science, math, and art. If everybody were the same, the world would fall apart. Everybody, everybody, everybody's smart. That's a song that I sing in an assembly that I perform. It's called Bullies, Courage, and Tips for Your Toolbox. In the assembly, I tell all the students that my mother made up the song, but I lied. She didn't. But the song is true. Everybody's smart. Everybody has something that they're good at and has something that they need to work on. And if we're given the chance, everybody can soar and succeed at what they're good at, and we can teach and learn from each other. My mother could have written that song. She's written many songs that I use in my performances all the time. And even though the belief system is definitely mine, I absolutely think that I got it from my parents. Charles and Lois Jones raised 3 creative, hardworking, eccentric children. I perform, and I help teachers put curriculum on its feet. My sister is a writer and an editor. My brother is an artist. My mother is a musician. And my father was an engineer, but we let him stay. Because we're all good at different things. I've always had a lot of energy. I still do. And every day of my life, I go into a new classroom, and I'm meeting new teachers that I've never been in their classroom before. So I'm a guest. So it's kind of like being a guest in your home. Teachers, just a few minutes in, they start sort of looking around at their classroom the same way you do. If you have a guest you've never had in your home, you see your home the way that they might be seeing it. So the teachers start to apologize or protect or defend the parts of their classroom that they struggle with. And invariably, it's the most active kids. And I always say, don't worry, I am that kid. I was that kid. But when I was a kid, back in the dark ages, it didn't seem to be such a catastrophe to have some energy. It wasn't against the law. I don't know, we didn't sit still as much. We had more opportunities to move around. I wasn't in trouble. What I remember is that the teachers used my skills and put it to work. When I was in kindergarten, Mrs. Rubin, she allowed me to teach every afternoon. Every morning, I would watch Ranger Rick on television, and I would learn the craft. And I would come to school prepared to teach. And Mrs. Rubin, every single day, would look at me and ask me what I needed. And she always had all the supplies. It wasn't until I was an adult that it occurred to me that Mrs. Rubin was also watching Ranger Rick every morning on television. My mother came in on Parents' Day and said, please don't feel like you have to let her teach every day. And Mrs. Rubin said, that's why I love kindergarten. It's so flexible. So Mrs. Rubin, this is back in the dark ages. Remember, Mrs. Rubin had to wear a dress every day to teach kindergarten. I, as a girl student, had to wear a dress every day to go to kindergarten. Mrs. Rubin wore industrial strength pantyhose. Now, I know that it was industrial strength because it didn't seem to run. It would just get holes in it, okay? And when you're a kindergarten student, keep in mind, especially during story time, most of the part of the body that you see the most is from the knee down, okay? So it must have been a Friday of a particularly rough week for Mrs. Rubin, but I remember sitting and listening to the story and suddenly being horrified because my teacher was dying of leg tumors. Hanging out through the pantyhose. And I don't know if my dedication to come and teach every day was because I was pretty sure she was dying of industrial strength pantyhose leg tumors, or if it was because Mrs. Rubin was doing her best to help me be the person that I'm meant to be today. So, what is kinesthetic learning? What is it? When I come into a classroom, I go into a classroom and I say, well, what I'm going to do, I explain what I'm going to do. And teachers often look at me and they think I'm going to do something like brain gym, something that's body and brain connected. And brain gym is amazing. It's great. Lots of sequences learning that helps prepare the brain to learn. Fabulous. Look it up. It's great stuff. But that's not what I'm going to teach. Okay, and sometimes they think I'm going to do a lot of calisthenics and a lot of aerobics because there's so much research that talks about how having lots of exercise and being physically fit really helps develop the brain, particularly the frontal lobe, which helps impulse control and decision making. It's great information. These are all great books, but that's not what I teach. What I teach, I go into a classroom and I work with the students to take the required curriculum and to put it on its feet. And we do that by adding in kinesthetic activities and including into the arts. And we work on what they need to do right now, because they don't have time to do anything different. And because I learn this when I go in to do professional development across the country, and teachers say, I need something I can do tomorrow. I need something that will engage and reach all of my students. And I need something that will make it stick. So that when I'm teaching, I don't teach exclusively something that's going to work for just the kinesthetic kids. Although Dr. Carla Hannaford, in her book Smart Moves, tells you that 85% of kids are kinesthetic learners. So they all benefit from all the movements and things, but even the kinesthetic kids have other skills too. I mean, what do you get when you cross somebody who cannot sit still with a brain that has too many ideas, so it can't sit still, and a mouth that cannot be quiet, sit still? What do you get? An actor. So we mobilize, and we personify, and we act out the curriculum. So how do I do that? Well, it depends. I'm a visitor, so it depends on how much time you need me for or how much time you want to teach your teachers. But one of the strategies that I use is called it's called ingredient games. We use ingredient games, and the idea is that it's kind of like a recipe, and the teachers include the curriculum. So one of them, one of the ingredient games that I like to do is where students stand up and they share information and they pass it around with lots of energy. Usually short questions, like math facts or transitional phrase words or mythological gods and goddesses. So they pass it around with energy. So it might look something like this. Zeus, 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 Aphrodite, 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 Cupid, Cupid, Cupid. And they're learning and they're having a good time, but they're going over the information. So you need to get them on their feet, but they're not wasting any time. This next activity is another ingredient game that I use all the time, but it's more about classification. So I take this drum, and the students move around the room, and if I play the drum slowly, they move slowly. And if I play the drum quickly, they move quickly. This is not a drum, this is a teacher management tool, okay? But if you hit it and then say, group up, then you tell them how to group up. So one way they might group up to be what kinds of shoes they are wearing, okay, till they get the hang of it. Or then you can curriculate it, and you could give them a card with fractions on it, and they can group up by common denominators, or equivalent fractions, or fractions and decimals, and then regroup up in equivalent ones of those. You could have them group up in short and long vowel sounds. I especially like grouping up into parts of something that become larger, like the parts of an insect. So you pass out cards, and all the antenna kids get together and go, antenna is part of an insect, and you keep moving on. And then they regroup up and they build them. And if you have time, they can name them. Maxine the ladybug. Did you know? You also get to add in some facts if you have some time. Did you know that if you see a ladybug and it's pretending to be dead, it's probably faking? I didn't know this. The first graders did. And once you see them acted out, you'll never forget. So these are some ingredient games that I use. But also, sometimes you can take it one more step if you have more time, and teachers will have a whole lesson they want me to share, or one or two workshops that they want me to share. And we go and we take the curriculum, and I said we mobilize it, we personify it, and we put it on its feet. Well, one way to do that and have some control is to do it in a statue form. So they take a statue, and the first one, for example, is you can do it, and you can do it like it's an emotional statue. So they stand at many levels to make it interesting, and they freeze. And then they act out an emotion, okay? And the rest of the kids are writing the emotions down. So this is where you take it and you go from, my mother was very, 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 really very mad, to, My mother was so angry that you could tell that one of her tonsils was bigger than the other one. Okay? So, or you can also group up and you can do characters, no costumes required. You can do settings and add details about that. You can do, this is from a historical statue that we did with a friend of mine who's in the audience today. We took her class, we took the picture, the kids stood in front of it, they acted it out, and we faded out the picture behind. And the students stepped forward, and using their research, they brought history to life and told the point of view and what those characters were thinking of. You can act out with statues with anything you want. You can do it with electrical circuits, you can do it with chemistry, compounds, anything. You can hold it still and one by one have it interact with each other. If I have more time, I will put on a full class production. I put on an average of 44 full class productions every single year. And the kids act out anything. They act out books that they're reading. We act out historical legends. We act out tall tales. We have kids who write stories on, how and why stories on the math and science curricula. So they took one, for example, on the light curriculum, and they decided that the sun was really angry. She was so fed up, it was a she. She was so fed up and she was tired of doing all the work herself, so she hid in a castle in the dark in the forest in Colchester, Connecticut. And the students had to deal with no sun, so they figured a way to solve it with the help of a fire-breathing dragon who had some friends who were light rays, and 3 local students who happened to be named transparent, translucent, and opaque. And they also encouraged the sun, as they saw this, to not wait so long till she felt so overwhelmed, because we all need to take better care of each other. I put on plays with students all the time. Next week I'm putting on plays with a kindergarten class where they're going to present the kinder, gentler version of the 3 Billy Goats Gruff. We had one student who was not particularly interested in this. He's 5, and he said to me just the other day, "I don't want to challenge the author. I want the big Billy Goat to throw the troll off the bridge." Not everybody is so easy to go for the nonviolence thing. I had 2 classes once in a 5th grade, amazing teachers, amazing classes, and we were acting out the 6 principles of nonviolence from Dr. Martin Luther King. And we not only wanted to act them out, but we wanted the students to be able to start using them in their everyday as they tried to work and learn. So every day that we were talking about ways to do it, we gave them some really hard challenge that they had to solve. And in the final presentation, we took for the second principle, which is that peaceful community is the way of the future. And we sang new words to the cup song. And if you don't know a middle school student and haven't known one for the last 5 years, the cup song is a song where you take a cup and you manipulate it as you go along, as you sing the song. It's kind of like boom, 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 and you pass the cup in an assembly line formation. Well, we decided, wouldn't it be great if we had all 47 students do this all at the same time? We're still recovering, but it was really fun. And we learned a lot of things, including 5th grade girls have much better small hand coordination than 5th grade boys. The temptation that once you really get that down to do it entirely faster than everybody else is very strong. And to create a peaceful community is tough on any level. But when we performed it the night of the performance, and the kids, we had no idea what was going to happen. You really, truly need to picture I Love Lucy and the chocolate conveyor belt. Boom, 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 throwing stuff. It was nuts. We didn't know if it was going to work or not, but they did it. And I know that the parents understood what we were going for and what we did, because when I turned around to face them, I was not the only one with tears streaming all the way down my face. Taking the curriculum and taking the students and putting them on their feet and letting them invest and work together is a way that they can build communities and be proud of who they are individually and appreciate each other. Everybody's smart. And if we give them a chance to get on their feet and learn on their feet, we give them a chance to soar and succeed at who they really are. And we also give them a chance to teach and learn from each other. And the greatest thing of all is it's really fun. These are my books. You have them each on your seats. They are free for you. I'm happy to sign them if you like. Thanks so much.